I am Malcolm Childs.
And I am James Skiffins. And we are Just Making Conversation.
The show where we discuss the ins and outs of the model making hobby that we both love so much.
From the greasy sprues to the gloss coats and everything in between, we are going to just make conversation.
Remember, there are other podcasts you can listen to.
Plastic Model Mojo.
The Scale Model Podcast.
Plastic Posse.
On the Bench.
Model Geeks.
If you enjoyed the podcast, consider leaving a review or 5 stars, as it promotes this podcast to more people to enjoy.
Also, consider tossing a coin to your podcaster on Patreon. It just helps us make content for you. In this episode, we'll be discussing the stigma that us hobbyists face. Or are we considered anoraks, geeks, or pioneers of the plastic arts?
Is there a stigma? Should we worry about it? Are you able to openly talk about your hobby in public? Do you have to discuss your enjoyment of the hobby in hushed voices and slip into a hobby shop under the cover of darkness?
So shut the curtains, lock the door, make sure the family are not in earshot. Sit back and relax while we explore the reason you just did all that.
So, James, let's kick this podcast off. Do you, this is me asking you, obviously, there's no one else here. Do you own an anorak?
No.
And why don't you? Because you are a model maker. And every model maker apparently wears anoraks, has greasy hair, glasses, body odor, has a limited social ability, is a geek, and lives in their cupboard.
Well, I just going through the list there and tick most of them, in fairness.
Greasy hair?
All right, there was no need for that, was there? I can't see this getting personal at all.
It's going to go badly.
No, I don't have an anorak. But, yeah, it's strange, isn't it, how, as a hobbyist that we are, that we don't really... What I'm trying to say in a roundabout English sort of way is we don't really communicate very well, as you can hear. Some people's perception, like you say, you've got an anorak, haven't you?
Yeah, you're a geek and that you stay at home and sniff glue and just make models and play with your toys. People who don't understand the hobby or don't understand the kind of difficulties and frustrations and the creative side of it, just blanket call you out to be a nerd or an anorak. I guess if you were running down the football field doing volleys and pretend I know anything about football now, doing volleys and throw-ins and handballs and offsides,
fouls,
doing fouls, good lord, while you're doing your model making, it would be seen as okay. Maybe, I don't know.
I think that was a really great way for you to explain how grown men run up and down a field kicking a goat's bladder. But, that's fine.
It's manly, isn't it? It's an aggressive thing. So I guess model making isn't seen as manly and aggressive.
Well, no, because we're not hunting and seeking, are we? We're not out there with our club thumping things and kicking things and pushing things and all that sort of stuff. We're sat calmly at a desk.
Clipping things instead and gluing things.
Yes.
So the way I look at it is we're mastering things. We're crafting things. We are creating things. We are pushing the boundaries of what plastic can do. No, we're not. But, we are doing something fun and good. And I guess that people who only play football and who are manly men, no, that's not true. Because I know that there are some manly men who likes doing modelling. Like me. I'm a manly man. I think.
All 6'2" of you. I want to ask you, Malcolm, the same question back, just to double check, because obviously you've not said it. But do you have an anorak?
No. Oh, do you know what? I wish I did, because it was raining the other day, and the coat I have is not. See, now I'm going to sound like a geek. The coat I had on the other day did not have a waterproof element to it, and by the time I got home, I was soaked through, and that is not cool. So I wish I had a waterproof jacket to wear. I don't have one, but I want one. Wow, that's interesting.
Maybe it's just me, maybe it's my perception, but I think you're the only friend I have that would explain that their coat hasn't got a waterproof element. But anyway,
its waterproof function has failed.
It's a coat without a cagoule.
Yes, it is. It needs a It needs a Anyway.
Welcome to Coats or Us.
This is why people don't talk to us, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the reason that the perception of anoraks and geeks come up is because it's a creative thing, and I think most creative things are perceived in that manner. Now, I'm going to be controversial because obviously, when you say anorak, if I'm honest, I don't so much know around the world, but generally in my sphere of things, when you say anorak, I think of Train Spotter, and I don't equate myself in the same league as a Train Spotter. But there are some people that would.
That's interesting. Do you know, I have heard people say, and I ask them what they like to model make. They'll say, "Oh, I like airplanes and tanks." And I say, "Oh, do you make any railways?" And they say, "Oh, no, I'm not that much of a geek." That's another level of geekness.
Yes, it is quite funny, isn't it? The word geek and anorak is aimed towards the railway in many ways. Sorry for all those railway lovers.
Yeah. I do apologise. Please do not switch off. At least wait to the end. Put us on mute and just let it run out. I think, though, obviously, being a railway enthusiast, you need to know electronics. You need to know about moving parts. You need to know a lot about photo etch. You need know a lot about layout. You need to know all of the bits and pieces to be able to make a layout. So actually, railway enthusiasts are more skilled than your regular model maker.
Yes.
Oh, that's controversial.
Just a distinction. Any hobbyist that is a rail enthusiast and a train spotter. A train spotter is someone that writes numbers down in a book.
Yes, there is a difference. Do you think a train spotter could be a railway enthusiast? Oh, no, a railway modeler and a train spotter at the same time? Or is that not even possible?
But the reason I said that is I remember a conversation with a work colleague who is a rail enthusiast. He is somebody that likes layouts. The conversation of anoraks did come up once, and he said, "No, I'm not an anorak because I don't write numbers down."
Oh, I see. He doesn't keep the numbers.
No,
I see. Because that would be ridiculous. It's funny, isn't it? Within the hobby, there are levels of stereotypes.
Yes,
and levels of anorakness. In the hobby that we're in, I consider remote control hobbyists to be like the Thor of the hobby world, as in godlike.
Gotcha. But yeah, no, Thor as in the god. Yeah, no, that works.
God level, because they deal with like big tanks and machines, and they go outside. And they got batteries and big wheels, and I don't know. They just seem more manly men than plastic model makers. I don't know why. It's funny, isn't it?
That's really interesting. Let's go into Malcolm's mind for a second. It's an adventure, trust me. So yeah, as a hobbyist, as someone that makes models, you perceive the RC model maker to be a level above you, as in godlike, a status that you can aspire to. Is that right?
It might be a financial thing because they're way more expensive than normal scale models. And I would love to be able to have a load of remote control stuff.
Ah, gotcha.
Just don't have the finances. Perhaps it's that. But when I see like a couple of my friends with their rock climbing mountain Land Rovers at 1/16th scale, and they're driving over the rocks and things like that and videoing them, and my other buddy who's got tanks that make smoke and fire things and scare cats, I think that's pretty cool.
The image that I've now got in my mind, and maybe our listeners have as well, is your friends videoing their RC antics up and down the rocks, with you in the background going pew pew with your tank.
I would too shy be hiding behind the bush, slowly rubbing my thighs, dreaming of the day that I could possibly swim with these big fish. You still there?
The rubbing the thighs comment is
But do you think that in the hobby, do you think there are levels of anorak? Do you think it's all right to have that kind of preconceptions and stereotypes?
Yes and no. I aspire to diorama model makers that are like do awesome work, and I aspire to achieve those sort of standards of work. I don't necessarily, in my mind, connect the dots between the remote control world and the other elements of the hobby, which is things to do with scale model making. So more blinkered, actually, because I'm looking at what interests me within the hobby. But yeah, I hadn't thought of the RC world being godlike. I mean, it's cool. It's cool what they do. Don't get me wrong. It's something you can go out and drive over rocks or fly through the air.
Yep.
That actually no. That's something that's just popped into my head. Radio controlled aircraft. Yes, I would put them above Thor because they're just awesome. Not only have they made something, and it does. I break it down this way because this is the order it should be. I'll clarify that in a moment. But yeah, you come up with a design, you build an aircraft, be it jet or propelled or whatever, and then you take it to a field and you fly it without it hitting the ground or flying into a tree or overhead lines.
Or you hope to.
Well, that's the aim, isn't it? Now, that's something to aspire to, because I have had the opportunity of being in the control of a few remote-controlled aircraft for a very short period of time. Yes, it's very thrilling. I wish I could make it last longer, but hey, that's just life, huh?
Yeah, that's a different podcast too.
No tablets that can help you with that.
Well, there are, actually.
That's going to be a long conversation. I'm not going anywhere near.
That's next week's podcast on hobby health.
But yeah, no, I suppose that would be something that I admire, but it's not something I would aspire to try and achieve, because I'm aware of the lack of coordination between my left and right side.
You've kind of hit the nail on the head. Now, they are risking their models that they have created and spent money on to enjoy them by throwing them around the sky or throwing them around a mountainside. And if they crash it, then they've got to walk home empty-handed. I couldn't even begin to fathom how... I'm looking at my model collection now. If they all started flying and driving about and getting knocked and banged and chipped and everything else, I would be mortified. So to put electronics in something cost lots of money, and then to send it outside to purposely test it, it's pretty cool.
Yes, it's great to watch. You know, someone's built their Concorde that can fly supersonic with jets and stuff. It takes off and goes straight into a tree. It would take a great deal of courage to be in that position.
What? No. Can you get a model Concorde that does supersonic speed? Surely not. No.
Because it'd be out of range of your controller too quickly. Like, shoo! Unless they run behind it very fast, of course. All right.
But yeah, I mean, I imagine it would be a lot of fun. It'd be all over very quickly.
Well, it's a little bit like the rockets. I mean, we're going off on a complete tangent here, but I've seen this quite a lot, where they fire a rocket and put a camera on it, because then they can film it. I press a button and watch you go whoosh. Yeah. So I suppose it's like most things. I've not tried it, so how can I really talk about it?
Hey, if I said to you, hey, I've just invested some money into a rocket and it's got a camera on it, and you and I are going to go to a field and we're going to have 30 seconds of fun and it's all going to be over really quickly, but we're going to film it and we... Oh. Oh my god. Do you think that you hide your love of plastic? Do you think that you keep it under wraps for your protection? Or is it just not cool to talk about it?
I struggled for many years sharing the fact that was my hobby, especially in my younger years. Now, no, I don't. I just don't care. And in fact, I think I may have said this before. Mm-hmm. I actually get quite a kick out of talking about my hobby to people. Right. Because, not necessarily because, but a lot of the time, You get a reaction like I used to get from my assistant manager, whose eyes would just cloud over. As soon as I went, scale model, before I'd finished the word model, he'd already be looking in the distance, thinking to himself, why did I allow him to get me into the corner of the room where I can't get out quickly?
Oh.
By the third sentence, yes, he was completely unconscious.
So he was already in a coma. But was he polite and tried to hide that, or did he openly have an objection to you talking about it?
No, he was uncomfortable while I talked to him about it. What he used to do is he used to come in to the room and go, hi everybody, how was your weekend? What did you do? Well, I made a model. And my model that I made was, oh my God, it's the new Hellcat from Edward, blah, 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 blah. I just enjoyed looking his eyes glaze over. It just amused me, because that's how I am.
Yeah, I see. So you were playing that card.
The main reason I used to do that with with all my management actually at work, because they all come in and they all go, how was your weekend? Not that I really care, but tell me anyway.
I am contractually obliged to ask you how you are. I do not want an answer.
Yeah, I did struggle with it for a long time, and because of the reasons. Did you play football? Do you? What position you play? No, I don't. I play with plastic. What? And then all those comments come through someone that's like, oh God, why would you do that? It's not a nice reaction.
No. Do you think it takes a bit of maturity to be able to stand up and say, yes, I am a model maker? And
yeah, I would say maturity, but also an element of being proud of what you do. I think that's much more important. It's having the self-pride and confidence in what you do as a hobby to be able to say, yeah, I play with plastic, I glue a few things together, and I make dioramas. And I'm cool.
I'll be careful not to make your head too big, but if you think because you're at a certain level in the hobby where you're able to do these kind of very intricate models and create such masterful dioramas, that you're able to then say, hey, it's okay, I am now considered a model maker because I can make models really well. I have now got the confidence to go up to Mr. Cool, sexy football player and say, hey, all you do is kick a ball around. Are you able to own your hobby?
Well, thank you for the compliments, but no, it's a short answer, because in my mind, I don't see myself in that way. I've been given a couple of awards for some models that I've entered. I'm very fortunate for that.
Not laminated, though.
Not laminated, yes. We covered this in a previous podcast.
Mm-hmm. We did.
It does enable me a little bit to feel comfortable to discuss the hobby, but definitely in my mind, I don't see myself as... Well, you'll know from the numerous conversations and text messages I've sent you over the time I've known you, what do you think of this? Do you think this works? Do you think that doesn't work? What should I do? Does this paint go with that paint? I still do that all the time. I question myself all the time. But I think it's more of a case, my turning journey for being able to talk about the hobby openly to anybody was mainly down to my mental health. And the fact that my mental health got to a point where I realised, it suddenly dawned on me that fiddling with plastic was much more beneficial than just making something pretty. I think that has enriched the hobby for me, but also taking away the need to hide in the cupboard.
Okay. Yeah. Because you see it as incredibly beneficial as well as being fun to do.
I've seen the benefits firsthand. And that's, I think, the strange part. It isn't the fact that I suddenly went, oh, wow, I didn't realise that was benefiting me. Look at that. It was more of a case of seeing other people and the benefits it made to other people that suddenly made me reflect that back on myself and go, oh, hell yeah, I hadn't realised that was happening. And also being a promoter of the hobby because I know what it can do for your noggin. With work, for example, there was an occasion just recently where something happened and someone was asking my advice about something. I won't go into details of it too much, but making modelling came up as a suggestion. And it was really funny because the person went, oh yeah, no, I do that anyway. And like, wow, I've known you for years. We talked about models in front of you. You said, yeah, I know, and I love listening to everything you said.
Wow.
But I've not told you.
Good Lord. Yeah.
It's another example of the barriers, if you like, modelers put around themselves because potentially what may have happened when they went, I'm a model maker, and everyone went,
I've heard this same story before. People who know other people for years accidentally end up talking about doing model making, and they'll say, oh, yeah, I might have made a model off you last week. What? I do too. and they become the best of friends. And neither of them knew that each of them did modelling within the confines of their dorm. It's actually quite sad, isn't it? That it's not openly discussed.
It is sad, yeah. But what I will do to anyone that's listening, I'm going to challenge all of our listeners and yourself.
Oh, God. James's challenge segment.
Now, I have a theory.
We need a theme tune for this segment now.
I have a theory that we attract hobbyists, but we just don't realise it. We're just too shy to ask. So, I challenge you, someone that you've known for a long time, spark up a conversation about scale model making. See if you have that moment where they go, oh yeah, no, I've done that for years.
I know that people have said to me, I have my own little Facebook group, or I have my Facebook blog page that I post all my pictures up to, because I don't want to bother my friends with my model making images. And that's really sad. It's like, why? It's your Facebook. You share the stuff that you do and you should be proud of it. You know? Thinking about it now, I don't do that either.
I was just about to ask you that.
I don't do that myself. Wow, No, I don't share it with my cousin and my family, because
Now, see, I do. I don't do it very often. I take more pictures of the garden and the work that the wife is making me do. But yeah, I do every now and again put a model up there or share something to do with my model making.
Why do you not do it all the time?
It's not because my family wouldn't be bored by it, and maybe some of them would be, some family and friends definitely. But it's more of a case that I run a Facebook group. I put it where I'm going to say belongs, but I feel that's the wrong word to use.
It's interesting, isn't it?
I've put it into that segment because that's where I share it.
Yeah.
And I share it with like-minded people. And I know I'm not going to get judged. Yeah, that's quite interesting, actually. I do it from time to time. And although I must admit, that's a recent thing.
What's the reason you don't share it all the time? Maybe you should try and share it all the time, see how you feel.
In my personal James page on Facebook, I don't post in it very often generally.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But saying that, I use Instagram, obviously, as another medium.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
My school friends are friends of me on Instagram. And I've put my Anorak away, for want of a better phrase. There are occasions where I still go back to the cupboard and I still put my Anorak on. Do you suffer with the stigma, or the perceived stigmas that there are around the hobby?
It's certainly not something that I would hide with anybody. And it's something that I would, like you, I would promote as much as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm quite confident and happy with displaying my model makingness. The models are in the lounge on display. I'm proud of them. It's a massive part of my life, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But has it always been that way with you, Malcolm? Or is that something in which has developed due to other stimulus? Has something stimulated that mindset and process?
I've always been a bit of a geek, certainly, and not an outdoorsy person, and not particularly sociable either at school. I don't remember ever being bullied for it, let's say that. I don't remember being bullied for doing those sort of hobbies. I remember being bullied for being tall or overweight or having too much hair.
It's really strange that you should use the word bullied, because I remember specifically not being bullied about model making, but that was probably because I didn't really talk about it too much. I know as a child, the only time model making came up was when I did my Duke of Edinburgh award. And part of the award process to get my bronze, I made a diorama. I don't genuinely remember being bullied. I might have had the mickey taken out of me, I guess, but I don't remember being bullied. But I also didn't promote it either. That makes sense? So it was more of an accident that it came up.
Sure.
Because I did that as part of the award. Yeah. It wasn't a case of me screaming and jumping about going, oh, no good.
Yeah, I guess it's just not something that people advertise all the time. You don't see it on the TV all the time. It's not like a public event. I was going to say, obviously there are public events, but it's just not in the mainstream, maybe. That's why people don't talk about it so much.
Yeah, it's not on EastEnders or Neighbours or Family Guy.
No, but if it was on Family Man... Family Guy. See, I don't watch it. But I do know what you're talking about. If it was on that, it would be the weirdo with the anorak on, with the greasy hair and the glasses, yes, who was making his Santa Maria, or he was making some model of some airplane. And they would use that as a tool to describe his personality.
Yes, we wouldn't be Bart Simpson's, would we?
No.
We'd be his neighbour. Millhouse. We'd be Millhouse.
Yeah. Do you know, I bet you I can find, before this goes out live, before this goes out, I can find a picture of Millhouse model making. I bet you I can.
Yeah. Millhouse or the other one, because Millhouse is the one with glasses, isn't he?
Yes. Yes.
The other one with the really whiny voice, I can't think of his name. Now, that probably would be the model maker. Because Millhouse is the sidekick. Although he's still a geek. He is the sidekick, where the other one with the funny voice.
I don't know who that one is.
Yeah, there's another boy. I'm just actually Googling.
Right. While you Google, it's in mainstream media. I say it's used as a tool to describe somebody's personality or character. You're watching a film with The Rock, and I don't think he'd be sitting there model making to show how powerful he was. They would show his model making to juxtapose his intelligence, perhaps, versus his muscularness or his aggressiveness. Model making isn't aggressive and muscular, is it? So,
I think you're absolutely right. And Ralph Wiggum was the character I was thinking of.
oh, no, God, he's like a bedwetter. He must be like a railway modeler.
Yeah, there you go. Bedwetter.
There we go.
I can't believe you said that. That's so funny.
Because that's terrible. Isn't that funny? That's like I just imagine him like a bedwetting train spotter. That's exactly how I thought it. On a show about stigma. Oh my God. I need diversity training and reevaluate my stereotypes. I apologise to everybody who wets beds, and I apologise to everyone who makes railway layouts. Oh, jeez.
And all those people that dig very big holes with their shovel.
Yes. Oh, God. I'm so bad. Wow. Oh, dear. I might cut that out.
There are model makers who will do armour, because they are an armour model maker. And they would throw similar comments as you would to a train spotter to someone that builds aircraft. But now this is the funny part. Now, the armourists and the airists won't throw the comments to the figure painters.
Ah, I see. Yes.
I've never heard a figure painter be described in any derogatory way at all.
Yep.
Do you think that's a case of the hobbyists putting levels within their hobby? Don't make a comment about him. He's a figure painter. We don't say those sort of things to him.
I think they got the skills. Both those model makers, so the armourists and the airists, to use your word, they would both have had to make figures to go with their models. And they would know how difficult it is and what skills you need, and may not possess those. So I imagine they would look up to the figure painter.
But see, this is the whole point of this conversation, is to talk about the stigma that is the perception of other people with outside of the hobby, but also remembering that we throw the same stigmas to people within the hobby as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We always say, don't you, that armourists, armourist, is that a word?
It is armourist, is a word. I'm not sure about airists.
Armourists, we always say that, oh, you've messed the tracks up. Oh, you obviously just chuck some mud on it and it'd be done.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen, and they carefully place the mud in exactly where it should be. But I guess the same with aircraft models. You could say, well, you're just going to chuck some wings on it and put the decals on and you're done. You don't even have to paint the underneath.
Yes. That, don't know anyone that doesn't paint the underneath of the model, but yes, you're quite right. Maybe that's something that's thrown towards tankists. Because it's on tracks and because you can't see underneath it, why bother?
That's right.
Whereas an aircraft, on its wheels, up in the air, you've got to paint it all.
Well, it's either up on its wheels or up in the air.
Yeah.
Can't be
But
both.
a figure painter.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna walk past.
Yeah, I see.
A figure painter. I think the difference is, I think a modeler looks at a figure, what that should look like is already fixed in your mind because it's a reflection of yourself.
Ooh, wow, that's deep. Okay.
Now, when I say that, if you think about the fallen Madonna with the
Big boobies.
yeah, that's not a reflection of me, although I do have big boobies. It's one of the reasons why when you paint a figure, when you're doing the eyes, they say to turn the head upside down. Because if you do it the other way around, you quite often will paint your eyes boss-eyed.
Right.
Because that's how your eyes see the face.
Oh, okay. I thought it's because you end up hitting the eyebrows.
Potentially, I suppose it could be that, but it's just that's the way that was explained to me.
No, I have heard that too. I assumed it was a a physical thing. It helps you get to the eyes rather than a metaphysical thing where you are countering some sort of caveman instinct to put your eyes on the side of your head.
For me, when I look at a figure, if I paint it the right way up, I can't because of the nose. Whereas if I turn it upside down, the nose is no longer as prominent.
I think maybe also it's that it doesn't look like a face anymore. So you're not, I don't know. Someone will tell us.
Yes. I think you hit the nail on the head. Is because how often do you see someone with their face upside down?
Not often.
It totally depends on how you spend your spare time. But generally speaking, most people won't see that very often. I think that's probably where the respect part comes from. Has got all those elements correct. There isn't anything to mock. When you see a figure that are eyes boss-eyed and all that sort of thing, then you do get a lot of comments. But generally speaking, anything other than that, figure painters are pretty much left alone, aren't they?
I mean, they're still going to be working away quietly on their own in a cupboard.
In their anorak.
When you go to model shows, yeah, the type of person that goes to a model show. Okay, let's talk stereotypical. Okay,
stereotypical. Yeah,
middle-aged. White British.
Generally,
male.
Yes. I think we can safely say that the stereotypical scale modeller is somewhere between his 30s and his late 40s.
Okay. Not older?
No, because what would you say a stereotypical rail hobbyist would be? Then your demographics would change. It would then be late 50s, early 70s.
So is it a progression?
I don't know whether it's a progression or whether it's a case of when it was cool.
Is it a downward spiral?
No, don't worry.
The downward spiral from remote control all the way down to the end, which is railway layouts.
Yep. You 18-year-olds that are listening now, really cool, running around with your RC.
Yeah. Rock hopping and looping the loop. Those damn kids.
Trust me, you will become a rail hobbyist at some point in your life. But there seems to be the demographic seems to have increased the amount of feminine input, and they're not just the wives being dragged around looking like they'd really like to be at TK Maxx instead of looking at plastic.
It's not stereotypical at all.
I think there has been a marked increase in the feminine modeller. I genuinely don't know whether that's always been the case and I've just not noticed, or whether it is a fact of it is increasing, or whether it is a case of the feminine element have decided that they no longer want to be in that cupboard.
The feminine element.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the fifth element, but a lot better to look at.
Now, hang on. The fifth element was female. Spoilers.
Well, yes, you say that.
I do. I've seen the film.
But the fifth element was about rocks, not about the woman.
No, she was the fifth element.
Oh, was she? Oh, well, yeah. I clearly not watched it properly. Another stigma-y sort of thing. Say to a female modeller, oh, I didn't realise girls could make models.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, you're a woman. You must obviously have a good eye for detail.
I have heard or witnessed them having that conversation with a male counterpart, going, "Oh wow, you're female and you're quite good as well, aren't you?" It's a cringe fest, isn't it?
Yeah,
it becomes a complete cringe fest. Yeah, I don't think there's any other way I can describe it other than that.
Yeah, if you're a female and you listen to this, we apologise for all the stereotypical things that we've said during this discussion on the stigma of the hobby.
If you make plastic models and you've had stigma, if you feel you want to make a comment, send us a message and tell us your experience. We'd like to know.
I guess it's all about maturity and education and everything, and teaching people about what's acceptable is obviously being tested these days in the modern times. What's interesting to me about this conversation is that I wanted to start off being high and mighty and talk about how I wasn't affected by stigma and how I think it's a terrible thing. But in talking about it, realised that I am actually entrenched and engorged in stigma.
This is the interesting part about it. I think it's right to say that when we both sat down and wrote down this idea as a podcast, we both went, don't know what we're going to talk about.
We still don't. I've got a clue what we're doing.
Well, no, we're just waffling now. we're not sure what stigmas there are towards the hobby in a lot of sense, or how it's affected us, because I personally, yes, I'm aware of some stigmas, but I generally walk on by them. That's how I've matured over the years and how I deal with it. If you want to think I'm me hiding in the cupboard, then I am hiding. Also interesting, you are the only person I know, especially friend, that has said, even accused me of maturing in any way. But thank you.
There's that other thing as well, about model makers playing with their toys, making toys. Are models toys? Are they not toys? That might be an entire podcast, to be honest. Now thinking about it, people have said that to me before.
Yes.
They're just toys, and I can see what they're saying. They are miniature things, but then I guess if it's RC, then you are playing with it.
Yes, I think that is a whole different podcast. In fact, we might call that podcast "The Buttons That Make James Go Bang," because that probably is the only comment that I will bite to.
Right,
the only one.
Okay.
All the other ones I can rise above. I can knock them off, and it's brought a duck back. Going to play with your toys.
But you understand that not that we're going to talk about it now.
No.
Because we're going to talk about it. Not that we're going to talk about it now. I'll leave it in this podcast. But the remote control end of things, which you say they were toys.
Ah, interesting. Now, see, this is...
We're not going to talk about it,
No, we're not. But as we're not recording this and it's not going out on anything else, that's very interesting. You should say it like that.
Where were we?
I think you were saying that toys was one of the stigmas.
Oh, yeah. Being told you're playing with your toys. I guess that's, derogatory comments, just like you're playing with your pig's blood. Just kicking a ball about. People train hard and work hard to be in the football profession, and they're just kind of belittled to say, you're just kicking a ball about. And I guess you can be derogatory about every hobby there is.
A lot of the human side of this particular topic is an element of ignorance. It's generally you get those sort of comments from people that don't really know what it entails, don't really understand the joy that you get or the benefit you get. They just don't relate it. And it's the same with football. Same with the football, I can't imagine thinking anything worse than running up and down a field for 90 minutes. Not even if you were chasing something worth chasing. It's far too much exercise for me.
It's quite easy to mock things you don't understand. And I guess stigma and a stereotype, the same thing as mocking. I guess it all comes from the same ignorance.
I mean, you've touched upon it a little bit within what we've been talking about conditioning. We all, without meaning to be, are conditioned with these stereotypes and these stereotypical comments, etc.
We kind of, as human beings, we like to compartmentalize. There's a word for you.
Oh, there's a word.
I've used compartmentalize in a podcast. I am so sorry. We like to put things in categories. We like to say that person does this, and so they're like this, and that person's that, and that's a pigeon, and that's a tree, and and we like to put things in brackets. So I guess when it comes to why that there are stereotypes and things like that, because it's just easier to understand in your own head, perhaps.
And of course, remember with that compartmentalizing. Oh, I said it too. Just remember, we're doing that ourselves within the hobby, putting ourselves in the cupboard, and all the other things which we've spoken about. We're guilty for it as much as anything else. So the question really, should you be worried by the stigma of the hobby?
No, because the only way you're going to change the stigma is by just talking about it and being open about it and advertising the fact that you're a model maker and you're having fun, and tell everyone about the hobby that you do and why you do it. Show everyone your models that you've made. Post on Facebook to all your friends and family. Don't worry if they complain. They can block you if they need to. But I would say every hobbyist has a duty to sing about their hobby. Go to the highest rooftop and wave your big flag and shout about it. Show everyone the work that you do and why you do it.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. Promote what gives you that satisfaction, gives you that release away from the real world. For two reasons. One, you never know whether the person sat next to you is exactly the same.
Yes.
And secondly, by shouting about it, it improves your confidence in your everyday life anyway. So be proud of who you are, and what you do. Because it doesn't matter to anybody else, it only matters to you.
Wow. The head of the nail has been hammered home. I think that's it. A very personal thing. And if you enjoy it, then go and blooming enjoy it. Isn't that what you said? But in a different way. Do we have a duty to stand up to the stigma of the hobby and be proud of the work and effort we put in? Yes, we do. Sing it loud, sing it clear, floodlight your model collection and tell the world you are a model maker.
It's not always about hiding in the cupboard.
You have been listening to Just Making Conversation
with James Skiffins
and Malcolm Childs. Follow us on Facebook, where we post photos, updates and other nonsense. Just let us know what you are making and what your thoughts are on the conversation on this episode. We have to thank our supporters who we dearly appreciate. Please support us in any way you can by sharing to Facebook or supporting us on our patreon.com.
Next time, we were just making conversation about hobby health. So it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.